Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from anthonymorganti.com, and this is episode 41 of Photo Critiques. And in Photo Critiques, people send me in some of their best images, and I critique each shot with suggestions on how they can improve it. And today, I'm pleased to critique the work of Wajeeh Cheema, and hopefully I pronounced that right, Wajeeh. Wajeeh tells me he hasn't been into photography very long at all. Says he's a beginner, but as I look at his shots, he's very, very good. This first shot, kind of, the nice pond and the tree, it's just a little unbalanced. And I think the reason why it's unbalanced is the pond is cut off. Now, I'm not implying that whenever you shoot a landscape and it has a pond in it, that you should get the whole pond in the shot. I'm just saying that in this instance, I think in this case, it just looks unbalanced because I'm wanting to see more on this side of the shot. So I think this would have been a better shot if it was shot horizontal and we got more of the pond in the shot. You would still have the tree off to the side, but I'd like to see more of what's over here. The other thing, it's side lit. Usually on a landscape with a tree and a pond, something like this, you want the sun either behind you or behind the tree. So that means you either want it front lit or you want it backlit. And if it's front lit, the light would be a lot flatter on the subject. Everything would be lit evenly. If it was backlit, we could do a lot more creative things. We could make it silhouette. We could maybe get some, depending on our camera and our lenses, we might be able to get some rays coming out of the sun. So it's something to consider. I would try a different time of day and work the scene a little bit and maybe consider shooting it horizontal. This is kind of classic framing, and what we do is when we frame a subject, it's just to draw attention to the subject. And Wajeeh did a great job with the framing. The color is beautiful, very highly saturated, nice exposure. The sky isn't blown out. Subject itself isn't super compelling, but it's a nice study in framing. So he did a really good job in that sense. This here. One thing I've seen beginners, they tend to have trouble focusing. In Wajeeh shots, everyone is really focused very well, except for I think one, and we'll get to that one in a minute. In this one, very nice, very nicely in focus. The only suggestion, it too looks a little unbalanced, and I think it's because the buggy, we're shooting it right on its end. And I think what would have been better if it was diagonal to the frame, and it would have been kind of pointing at this little building here. So this is another one where maybe you could work the scene. I'm not sure if you could get in here and you could have twisted this buggy around to make it, more diagonal. But I think work the scene. I think there might be a better shot in this scene than what we're seeing. Although what he did here from a photographic standpoint is very well done. Very nice focus and very nicely exposed. This shot is really, really difficult to get. First of all, it's a moving subject and it's nighttime. So you have to use a relatively slow shutter speed, 1/50th of a second, wide open aperture. So it's hard to focus on the moving subject with such shallow depth of field and such slow shutter speed. So he did a very nice job. I mean, it is a little soft, but it's like I mentioned, it's tough to do. Couple suggestions. If you had a flash and if your camera could do a high-speed sync where you could get it at 1/250th of a second, that might be a consideration. You could then freeze the subject. You could get less blur and have it really crisply in focus. Another thing, if your flash and camera combo could do rear curtain sync, you'd use a slower shutter speed and you'd get kind of a blur going behind the subject if you used rear curtain sync, it's called. So that's things to consider. The suggestion I can make about the composition is Wajeeh did a great job. We want the empty part of the frame in front of the motorcycle. Whenever you have anything that's moving through the frame, we want the larger empty part of the frame in front of it, so it's moving into the empty part. It just looks more natural. But in this case, it's crowding the back of the frame is just a little too crowded. You don't want to do that for a couple reasons. The one reason, if you want to print this, most prints sizes are going to crop a little bit on the ends. some sizes more than others. So you're going to lose some of this back tire. So you really don't want that. The other reason is just from just looking at a print or looking at the picture on the computer, it just looks too cramped, too, looks uncomfortable to look at. So you just want it a little more forward. We still want the larger empty part of the frame to the right of the subject. But if this whole motorcycle was moved forward maybe a foot, foot and a half, I think it would look a lot more natural. The last thing I want to add is about post-processing. It's very dark in here, very dark. So if you can't use the flash, what you could do is you could go under the basic panel in Lightroom and you could go down to shadows and just open up the shadows. And you could see, now we could see detail in their pants and in her jacket where it was really dark. And even in the motorcycle down in here was really dark. There's before and there's after. So you could see it opened that up quite a bit. So that's my suggestion there. Now this is the soft shot I mentioned before. This is just kind of blurry. The white balance doesn't look right either. Often when you're shooting under fluorescent lights, it'll shift the white balance towards green. So you either have to correct for that in camera, preferably, or in post-processing you correct that. The shot itself, as I mentioned, the composition I don't care for that much. It's not too compelling. Whenever you photograph, I mention this often in the critiques, you photograph anything with eyes, people, animals, even insects, you want the eyes to be the part that's in focus. So make sure you focus on the eyes. Now this one, excellent job. Eyes are really crisply in focus. The white balance is perfect. Very nicely done. I think this is a crocodile. I think because this one tooth goes up, that makes it a crocodile. I could be wrong. I make no claims to be an expert, but I think it's a crocodile. The composition itself is not super compelling either. It's just a crocodile on a, like a park bench or something. So, but from, like I mentioned, the exposure is nice, the color balance or the white balance is nice, and the focus is nice. Now this one too, a little more compelling of a shot than the previous one. The eye is nicely in focus. F of 5.6, very limited depth of field. You can see where the snout is starting to get blurry on this crocodile. Could be a caiman, maybe. I don't know. Either way, what I would suggest on this one, if Wajeeh could circle around just a little bit to the left, and shoot the camera so it was more towards the right. What I'm trying to do is get it flat, the camera sensor flat to the side of the animal's face. That way when you focus on the eye, you'd have all of this part in focus. I would also get in tighter and just get the, I'm going to call it a crocodile for lack of not knowing what it is. I'm going to get in tighter to the crocodile and cut out this part here because we're cutting off part of his arm here. It doesn't look quite right. He's kind of running out of the frame. So I would get tighter in on his head, like behind his mouth here, and flatter to the side of his face so the snout wouldn't be blurry anymore. That would be in focus, the eye would be in focus, the teeth would be in focus, and that's what we're going for. Now this one, very nicely done. Excellent focus on the eye. That's what I'm talking about before. The only thing I could say, if you had a flash, it would brighten up the eye a lot and give you the catch light in the eye, which makes it look really, come alive. But you could do stuff in Photoshop too, or in Lightroom too. A lot of people don't like doing things like this, but it's just a suggestion. If you don't like doing it, don't do it. You don't have to send me hate mail saying I make things look fake. Bring up exposure just a little bit, bring up contrast just a little bit, but bring clarity way up. Oops, bring clarity way up, there we go. And just paint around the animal's eye like that. Now, here is the before and there's the after. So we didn't change the color of the eye, we didn't move any pixels around and change the shape of the eye or anything like that. All I did was as though I was shining a flashlight in the animal's eye, and it just kind of adds some life to it. So it's something to consider. if you'd like to do something like that. Very easy to do, and I think it adds a lot to the shot. This is my favorite shot of Wajeeh's. It's a very nice composition. Now see, he cut out the pond here, but it doesn't look like it's unbalanced like the first shot did. So it's a really nice shot. It's a little bit side lit. It's not too bad. Again, you probably would prefer to have this one front lit, so the sun would be behind you. But very nicely done. The sky is done, nicely done. The shadows, are okay because it's side lit. It's not bad. They're not harsh. A lot of times, if the sun's too high in the sky and it's side lit, we'd get really bright areas of the sun and very dark areas of shade. So we don't want that. So I really like the shot. I think it's very nicely balanced, and I like the saturation. The sky is beautiful. He did a really nice job with exposure, composition, focus, everything very, very nice. Couple things, if you wanted to bring out the shadow a little bit, you could. I don't know how good it would look. Just come to shadows and bring those out a little bit. It's that's before, that's after. I can't say I really like that. But if you did do something like that, then what you'd want to probably do is go and put a slight vignette on it. Something like that. So there's, before, there's after. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You might like that one better. You might like that one better. It doesn't really, it's up to you. It's your shot. But just a suggestion, you bring the shadows out a little bit, then add a vignette to help draw the attention towards the center of the picture again. So again, that's the before and that's the after. That's it. I'd really like to thank Wajeeh for sending me in his images to share with us. For a beginner, I would say you're definitely much more advanced than a beginner, and very nicely done. And I really enjoyed doing this critique. Like the others, I actually enjoy doing all of them. And I'd like to thank everyone for watching my photo critiques, watching my Lightroom videos, my Photoshop videos, my Elements videos, going over to my website, reading my articles. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you guys could do me a favor, if you haven't already, go to YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate that. And I got a lot more stuff planned and a lot more stuff to do, and there's not enough hours in the day, but I'll be getting a lot more new stuff done very soon. And again, thank you everyone. I'll talk to you guys soon.